finished our first service, and we're in week 2 of our Where Are You Christmas series, and I hope you've been enjoying the messages. But today, I shared a story that I've shared before about my mom and her nativity scene. You know, she sets out a nativity scene, and she has these blow molds, the nativity scene, and she about 5 years ago, she had it out. She sets them up on Thanksgiving, like always, and sometime between then and Christmas, someone stole her baby Jesus. And she was pretty bummed out. You can imagine. She'd had it for a long time and stuff, and just why would somebody do that, and all the questions and stuff. But a year later, at Thanksgiving, that baby Jesus showed up again on her doorstep. It was kind of a cool thing. The news did a story on it and all, but I share this story because it seems like more and more Jesus really isn't welcome at Christmas. At least it seems that way, and I read a story out of the Huffington Post by one of their writers, Cheryl Mock, and which basically says that also. It's her sentiments, her feelings about Christmas, and she basically ends it with this, and she says, "My tax dollars pay for that reception area. It's a public space where Christians and Jews and Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs and Buddhists and atheists and everyone else are welcome, and baby Jesus is not." And so it just kind of shares the sentiment. There was a survey done on one of the radio stations here this past week on what does Christmas mean to you, and only 17% of those who phoned in for the survey said it's about Jesus. It's kind of a sentiment. It's like people are afraid to even talk about Jesus, afraid to say Christmas, and it's kind of crazy. And but it just what could be so controversial about a baby, and how, I think part of it is who Jesus represents, or what he represents. He represents humanity. He represents God with us. And what separates Christianity from all other religions is that God pursues us. That's what Jesus is. Jesus is God pursuing us. Every other religion is man pursuing God. But his humanity, he was really a human. He was really God with flesh and skin on. And the shepherds were told, "You'll find a baby," not a full-grown man who just claimed to be God, but you'll find a baby who was born. And the Magi asked, where is this one born King of the Jews? He's God with skin on. He's Jesus. He understands our weaknesses. He understands what you're going through, the circumstances, the situations, as hard as they may be. He understands them because he's been there. He's lived through those. He understands emotion. He understands pain. He's one of us. And then, we read through the Christmas story again in Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 18. And maybe you want to take time and do that in your group. But we talked a little bit about Herod and what he represents. He represents hostility. Those who are hostile to Christ, they're hostile to Christianity. And Herod was a killer. I mean, he that's what he did well. And he was insecure as a leader, all kinds of problems. He ruled for over 40 years. And the self-proclaimed king of the Jews in Galilee. But he just represents everything that's hostile to Christianity. And that was the scene that God chose to invade. That was the situation, the stage that he chose to arrive on. Knowing that there was all that hostility, knowing who Herod was, Jesus was still born in Bethlehem, 6 miles away from Herod. And I think that just speaks to, the fact that God is not afraid of the hostility. He's not afraid of someone who's passionately and adamantly against him. He's not afraid of that person. He's willing to invade their lives, their scene. And then there were the scribes and the religious leaders that represent the indifferent, and how they knew about where Christ was. When Herod asked them, where where is he? They knew exactly where he was. They could tell Herod where Jesus would be born. But they themselves weren't excited about it. They didn't even investigate it. They didn't even go. And I think it talks and speaks to where a lot of people are. They believe in God. They know about God. They have the answers, but they're indifferent. They're cold. They're callous. Their hearts are far from God. And that's sad. That's my concern. It's not so much about the hostile person, because I don't think anybody sitting here watching this video is hostile to Christ and the church and Christians and all. But there may be some that are indifferent and just cold-hearted and just kind of becoming cynical and calloused. And then there were the third players on the scene, and that was the Magi. They were the guys who really weren't supposed to be there. They were like watching a Marvel movie and Yoda shows up, and like, what's he doing here? And these guys were from the East. They were not even Jewish. They just didn't belong. And it just represents how God doesn't care how far away you've been from him. He doesn't care how far you've gone and what you've done. You still belong. And maybe you're here at small group, maybe you're at Life Point, and you've been far away from God. Man, you belong in this family. You belong in this place. Have a great week. God bless you.